Hey YouTube, Mr. C back for another video here. Welcome to my channel. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss the refrigeration cycle. Very basic refrigeration cycle. There's other things that can be added to the unit, to the system and everything, but right now I'm just going to go over the very basic. And what you need to do is you need to subscribe and like, okay? Because I'm going to have more classes starting at the very beginning of basic refrigeration. That way you can build on each week. So what I want to do first is I want to tell you that there's four basic components to refrigeration cycle. It's the compressor, the condenser, the evaporator, and the expansion valve or the metering device. The main part of refrigeration is the compressor. The compressor is like the heart of the unit. It pumps the refrigerant through the coils all around the system. Okay. Now, without the compressor, if that's not pumping, it's not working. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to start off with the compressor. All right, which is, I drew it up. I'm no artist, so forgive me with my drawing. But this is the compressor. Okay. On the outlet of the compressor, you have a discharge line, okay, which gives you a high pressure, superheated vapor or gas. That's the state of the refrigerant. Okay, as it goes through the discharge line, it enters what is the condenser. Now the condenser's main purpose is to remove unwanted heat, okay, out of the refrigerant. Okay, so what it does is it comes in the condenser, through the condenser, and as it's going through the condenser, there's a fan, and the fan is, the mechanical means is blowing the air across the coil. Okay, so as it comes through, what's happening is the refrigerant has a boiling point. All different refrigerants have different boiling points, okay, which is saturation temperature. Okay, so at this point right here, like I drew with the line, it's a saturation point. That's the point where liquid and vapor exist in the refrigerant. Okay, so what it's doing is it's coming through here, and what's happening is as the fan's going through, it's boiling off. The refrigerant is boiling off. Okay, keeps on going as far if it goes keeps on going down the coil. What's happening is the fan keeps on blowing, and it's creating, it's removing more heat. Okay, it's called subcooling. Subcooling. The only thing that means subcooling is it's the saturation temperature. Okay. Minus the temperature of the refrigerant. You're subcooling it. Okay, you want to subcool the refrigerant. The reason you do that is so full liquid. You want full liquid right here coming out of the condenser. So you have vapor coming in, superheated vapor. It'll condense. Okay, it'll boil off. With subcooling, it'll become a liquid. Okay, and as it comes down, it keeps on producing subcooling temperatures of the refrigerant. Okay, so what that does is it guarantees that you have pure liquid coming down and going in the liquid line here, which is called the liquid line. It comes in here to the expansion valve. Now right in here, I didn't draw it, but all units have a filter dryer, okay? And the filter dryer's purpose is to take, when the refrigerant goes through it, it goes through screens. And what it does is it cleans the refrigerant and takes all little tiny particles out. It's almost like an air filter on your air conditioning, but for the refrigeration system, what it does is cleaning the refrigerant. So it's make sure that there's no particles. Because what happens is if it goes through the liquid line here, okay, I right down here, and it enters the expansion valve. Okay, you don't want any sediment, because what happens is in that expansion valve there's a little orifice, okay, or in the capillary tube system, the capillary tubes are very tiny. Okay, so this here, the expansion valve or the metering device, this is where the refrigeration takes place. This is like this right here, this side here, this is your high side of your system. This is high pressure, liquid and high pressure vapor. The expansion valve right here in the middle, okay, is the dividing line. This is where you change a high pressure into a low pressure, and that is done with the restriction of refrigerant. Think of a garden hose. When you squeeze the nozzle and it like spurts out real fine. Well, that's the same thing that's happening here. Okay, it's taking the refrigerant and it's all like refrigerant liquid droplets and everything are going in there. Okay, and what it does is comes in through here. Just remember, this is high pressure here. Okay, and the other side of the valve is low pressure. Okay, so what do is you have low pressure, low temperature, and this is still right here. This is liquid. This is a blue line here. This is cool to the touch, and it's liquid. And that's because of the restriction here in the expansion valve. So, line comes in through here, all the way around, and it goes into what right here is the evaporator. The evaporator is where all the cool refrigerant is that makes your refrigerant box cold or your house cool. That's what gives the cooling power of the refrigeration or the air conditioner. Okay, it's all done with this little valve here. Okay, so this is all low pressure, low temperature, but still it's a liquid. Okay, so the liquid comes into the inlet of the evaporator, and it travels. It comes through, and look what you got here. You got a fan. So the fan in the evaporator is doing the same thing as it does in the condenser. But here, what you're doing is you want to superheat. Okay, you want to add heat to the refrigerant. Okay. So what's doing at the saturation point of the refrigerant, what you're doing is boiling off, and what you want to do is, because of the fan, the refrigerant lines are absorbing the heat from the ambient temperature around the coil. Okay, what's happening is in this section right here, the refrigerant is boiling off into a vapor. Okay, and what you're doing here is boiling into a vapor, going through the coil, going all the way up here. Right now you're at vapor. You have vapor. Now the thing is, the tricky thing is, and the most crucial thing is that you have to superheat the refrigerant. By superheat, I mean you need to add heat to the boiling point of the refrigerant. Okay, and at a later time when we discuss temperature and pressure and everything, that will make more sense. But for now, this here, what you're doing is you boil it off, you have vapor, okay? And as the refrigerant goes, you keep on gathering more superheat. You don't want too much superheat, but you have to have enough superheat that this is liquid. I'm sorry, this is vapor. And what it does is it comes out in the evaporator. This is the suction line. It comes out of the evaporator as a low pressure, superheated gas. Okay? Comes out, travels through the suction line, all the way back to the compressor as a low pressure, low temperature, superheated gas. Now, the thing about the superheat is you need to have superheat because you don't want any liquid refrigerant going back to the compressor. That's one of the worst things that can happen. And when you don't, you're going to have too much superheat. Okay, what's going to happen is the compressor is going to overheat because you're not getting enough refrigerant back. Because the refrigerant is actually what cools the compressor down. Okay? So if you have too much, if you have too little superheat, you have too much liquid, and maybe the liquid will be up to here instead of vapor, and what's going to happen is it's going to come in, liquid is going to go into the compressor, and that's when you have, it's called slugging, and that's no good. That pistons, this is a motor in here with pistons and two valves. It'll go up and down like in a car. So what happens is if this liquid goes in there, that piston comes up and is trying to compress it, and it's pure liquid, you're going to damage the valves, and also you damage the piston, but mainly the valves. So, you know, it's very important, and we'll go over this in more detail when we start doing my lessons, that subcooling and superheat are very, very important in diagnosing a unit. When you put your gauges on, and you can see the inside, what the gauges do is you can read the pressure and the temperature of the refrigerant. And what that does, that it's like almost like a doctor's x-ray. You're seeing inside the system what the system's doing at the condenser and at the evaporator. So too little refrigerant, too much refrigerant, that's bad. Okay? Your fan motor goes bad, or you have a dirty coil in a condenser, what's going to happen, you're not going to have the airflow going through the condenser, and your condenser is not going to act right. The saturated point is not going to be there, and what's going to happen is you're going to end up having liquid, vapor, and liquid coming back to the expansion valve, which is no good. So this is the basic refrigeration cycle. That's pretty much it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do classes. I'm going to start next week with basic refrigeration. We're going to go over what is refrigeration, and we're going to start there, and then we're going to build. Each week we're going to do another lesson, and we're going to build on it, and we're going to go over pressures and temperatures and gauge and reading the gauges. And also we're going to go in depth to what each of these parts do, and the different types that you can have. Other than that, just remember that there's two sides of the system. There's a high side and a low side. Okay? And this will be gas, liquid, and then gas. Okay? So you always want to have gas, both sides of the system at the compressor. I'm saying vapor, both sides of the compressor. Okay? And that all depends on how your refrigerant is, how your unit is charged. And you put your gauges on there, and you can tell just by looking at your gauges what the unit's doing. And that's pretty much it with the basic refrigeration cycle. Any questions? You can comment below. You can email me at mrcrefrigeration@hotmail.com. And as far as that, I think that's it for right now. And I will see you on Wednesday when I do another job scenario. And this one, we have an ice machine that's down. Just leave your comments below. Okay? Let's see. Yeah, that's good. That's about it. I hope you have a great day, and I hope that God blesses you and your families. And make sure to comment, okay, and subscribe again. And I really appreciate it. And this is my first time doing this stuff. So as we go on, I'll get a little better at it. If you can have any comments, what I can do better, let me know. I'm a little nervous still, so, you know, just give me a comment. I will see you next week. Peace.